Good morning, everybody. And as you can see, the Gulf War Vulcan is coming along nicely. I thought I'd do a quick update from the Book of Armaments, looking at the Supa Phoenix AIM-54MX, which the Malagasy Missile Weapons Cooperative has just developed. It's basically a Phoenix with a massive booster on the back. It also has a dual pulse rocket motor. It has two versions, one with an ASA, electronically scanned active seeker radar head, and one with an infrared seeker head. We'll come on to that later. Both missiles are fully data linked and capable of being launched from large aircraft. They have the longest range of any air-to-air missile, and they're designed to take on AWACS type targets and fighters. They're effectively the PL-17's rival. The Malagasy Wati forces operate the PL-21, which has a 400-kilometre range, but this is designed to take on those pesky Marmatian MiG-31s at ranges which the Marmatians can't target the Malagasy aircraft. So they took the old AIM-54 shells, because they operated Tomcats, upgraded the radars, infrared seeker heads, data links, dual pulse rocket motor, and a huge booster. So a really potent piece of kit. They've also done an infrared seeker variant of the AIM-120C missile, which is the one on the top here. So an infrared RAM AIM-120CR medium range missile. Now, why would they do that? Well, let's have a look at Soviet and post-Soviet successor state missiles. Now, it's pretty much understood that an infrared seeker head is not normally always used on short range missiles such as the R-73 here. That's because it's very hard to evade. You can fire flares, but these are designed to be flare resistant, and it's used at short ranges. Now, what's interesting is Soviet doctrine also had infrared missiles, or variants of them, on their older missiles. So here is an R-40 with an infrared seeker head, an R-40 with a radar head, R-27ER with a radar head, and an R-27ER with an infrared seeker head. Now, the seeker heads on these missiles are semi-active radar homing, so they're what's called SARH missiles. So the aircraft will provide guidance inputs as to where the target is. The infrared ones are interesting because Soviet practice was to salvo these, an infrared and a radar one. And the idea is that various countermeasures on your aircraft, jamming, etc. like that, diving to low altitude, might throw the radar head off, but then you've still got the infrared seeker head tracking you. Now, these are, of course, long-range missiles in the case of the R-40 and medium-range now missiles in the case of the R-27ERs. So you've got two types of missile to deal with. So your countermeasures and actions which will work against one may expose you to the other, giving the missiles a better chance of killing you. Now, the Soviet and post-Soviet successor state, the Russian doctrine, is actually to throw the whole kitchen sink at the enemy aircraft beyond visual range. And that's why the Su-27 and Su-35 carry so many missiles. Of course, they then carry the active seeker head, the R-77 missile, which is your equivalent of the AIM-120 missile. So active seeker head is better than semi-active because the missile itself has its own seeker, and that's what the Supa Phoenix has, an ASA active radar head. So the Malagasy Missile Cooperative, Missile Weapons Cooperative, thought about this issue and thought, well, have we missed something here? And in all respect, yes, possibly the West has. But in Russian doctrine, Soviet doctrine, you fire the infrared one first, and then you fire the radar one. Now, you do that so that the infrared one doesn't go up the spout of the radar one. So the Malagasy Missile Weapons Cooperative thought about this and thought, well, The range of this Supa Phoenix and the range of the AIM-120 really means that you've got to be using an active seeker head like the R77, because you won't be able to lock up the target with your radar like you would on the semi-active ones, because it's beyond the range of your radar. You're effectively firing it based on a solution, probably from an AWACS or an Airborne Early Warning Command Post, a long-range radar. So what they've done is they've turned things on their head slightly. So you would launch, or the plan is you will launch the active radar Supa Phoenix, huge range away from the target. Then, after a time delay, you will launch the IR missile, which is data linked together. Now it's data linked, one, to stop the IR missile tracking the active radar missile, but two, because at this extended range, the IR seeker will not be able to detect the target. It's too far away. So the plan is that the active radar, the ACER one, guided towards the target by coordinates, then picks up the target with its actively scanned electronic radar. It data links to the IR missile and tells it where to go, and the two missiles fly together. Because it's data linked, the IR one won't track this. And then when they're in range of the enemy threat, which will be expected to be at high level, because it will be a fighter like an F-15 or an Su-35 or a MiG-31, the standard practice to evade tracking is to dive down into dense air where the missile loses energy and can't turn as well. Now, even if it's able to defeat the active radar by this manoeuvre, it's still got the IR, which will then have track of its hot engines. And these Supa Phoenixes will be very lethal even down in dense air, because they're still able to track. In all likelihood, at the range of 400 to 600 kilometres, whilst radar warning systems on the threat aircraft will pick up that it's being pinged by the active radar, it won't necessarily pick up the IR seeker, which is passive. So what will happen is, and this is the plan, that even if you avoid the active radar Phoenix, boom, when you then recommit to battle, going hot as it's called, from where you've gone cold, or where you recommit up to try and attack the Malagasy aircraft, you've still got the IR-1 in the air, and the IR-1 has not impacted anyone yet. The IR-1 has not been picked up by your radar warning receiver because it's passive. And you recommit up to the level, boom, straight into the path of the infrared one. So that's the theory of the Malagasy Supa Phoenix. For non-manoeuvring targets like AWACS, that kind of aircraft, well, even diving down, you've not got the manoeuvrability to outdo the active seeker head. So it gives you a great range to engage enemy command platforms. It's the same theory on the AIM-120 infrared and the AIM-120 radar. Shorter ranged missiles, these are medium range missiles now compared to the super long and long range missiles. But even if your fighter target, which these are intended, comes down from high level to dense air, low level, to evade this missile and evades the active radar seeker head, as it then comes up to recommit, bam, it's whacked into by the passive infrared seeker head. It doesn't know it's there. It's not picked it up unless it's got missile alert warning systems with plume indicators. Those operate on your IR and your UV frequency. But because of the ranges being used, it's hoped that only in the last minute would this be detected. And there you go. That's the plan for the Malagasy forces to make their weapons even more effective. Thank you for watching.